5. 11BX137. A gadget blog named Gadgets with 2 Z's got international viral attention after they received an exceedingly strange, mysterious CD sent to their address. The blank gold CD has a series of letters and numbers written on it, and no other markers denoting what it could be. The contents of the CD when played are very confusing to say the least, strange and downright horrifying. A hooded figure dressed like a bubonic plague doctor, standing menacingly in what looks like a burnt out, destroyed remnant of a building. He just sorta appears to be standing and communicating in some kind of code, wandering, posing, revealing a blinking light emanating from the palm of his hand. Its hand, maybe? This thing does kind of have SCP-049 vibes. After about a minute, the hooded figure faces the wall, where he stays for the remainder of the video. But where the video goes from creepy to I might never sleep again levels of horrifying is that when you run the audio through a spectrogram, a fancy word for a visualization of sound, images begin to appear of tortured bodies and a chilling threat spelling out, "You are already dead." That's the kind of thing you'd love to receive in the mail unmarked. Internet sleuths the net over came together to try and uncover and unmask this nefarious figure in the terrifying video. Now, if it's any comfort for you, the images found in the spectrogram appear to be excerpts from low-rent horror movies, and people found screen captures that matched up pretty well. Speculation ran wild as to what this video could possibly mean. Was there a secret message or a threat behind its cryptic codes? Was it just an advertisement for something? Or just a bored artist trying to get somebody's attention the only way he knew how? Well, eventually, someone did come forward. A man by the name of Parker Warner Wright claims to be the plague doctor in the video, and said the reason for the video was nothing more than an art project to entertain and confuse people. Like most cryptic, scary artists, when he was asked about why the video was made, all he had to say was, "I see my work as waves on the oceans. Thanks." Number 4. The Red Rooms. One of the most reoccurring dark web urban legends as well is that of the Red Rooms. What is a Red Room, you ask? Well, it refers to an alleged secret streaming service or website where viewers can pay massive sums of money, usually cryptocurrency, to watch live streams of the darkest things imaginable to the human psyche, being able to make special requests for what they'd like to see. Much like the VIPs from Netflix's Squid Game, if you watched that, and I'm sure most of you did, who all traveled to that mysterious island to pay to watch the games up close and personal, this is allegedly that on a much smaller, personal scale, where you wouldn't even have to dress up in an ornate animal mask and fly out to South Korea. Now, it's worth noting that there's some discrepancy as to whether or not these horrifying red rooms really exist, or if it's an exaggerated story, like a digital campfire legend. The browser used to access deep and dark web content is too slow to run a live stream properly, and alternative browsers struggle as well as they run their traffic through multiple services. That's not to rule it out entirely. The web beneath the surface is a wild wasteland, and there have been deeply disturbing real stories from the dark web of criminals charging for pay-per-view videos of dark acts. So who's to say? I'm not about to crawl through the dark web anytime soon to find out. Number 3. Croatian Stalker. Do you ever feel like someone might be watching you? I know I do, quite a lot, although it could be because someone is watching me right now, you're watching me right now, but I also just mean in my day-to-day. It's spine-chilling to imagine that somebody's following you without you realizing for gosh knows what, and trailing you around, preventing you from feeling safe. This next video, appropriately and concisely titled Croatian Stalking Tape, is a footage of 2 men recording themselves being pursued by a masked stranger. And according to the uploader, this was the last time either of them were ever seen. The video was uploaded not by anyone in the video, but rather a third party who somehow got a hold of it. And the only evidence we can find for it is that he claims it was recorded in 2005 and is a piece of evidence in a missing persons case for these 2 individuals. In the video, we can clearly see the 2 friends initially enjoying a night on the town together when they're apprehended by a very strange man wearing a sack over his head. You know, normal stuff. At first, the sack-clad man appears, well, I don't want to say friendly per se, but he's not outwardly hostile. Just bizarre. Slouching and bending and walking in a way that kind of intones that either it's not a human or it's a human who's had a really long night. The 2 friends then try their best to elude the pursuer, who does not seem keen on letting them go. They try to lose him by making their way to a hotel lobby, where they proceed to call for an elevator to try and find some respite from their stalker, only for the elevator door to open and show them the last thing they could have ever wanted to see, as they are face to face with the sack man, and the doors close. If the video uploader is to be believed, this could really be the last thing they ever saw. It was hard to try and find any more information about this video. I did some digging, but I couldn't get any solid answers as to where this came from, who these people were, and if they really went missing. There's some speculation that it could be a very elaborate fake, which is always a possibility. Let me know if anybody's got any intel on this one. Number 2, video dating. Hey, dating is hard. We've all been there. Let me tell you, since that Dahmer show dropped on Netflix, it's not been easy for me. In today's world, it can be so hard to meet that perfect match, especially if you're on the brink of sanity. This video, uploaded and titled Video Dating Tape, was allegedly found in the VCR purchased at a car boot sale, which, if you're not familiar with that term, it's kind of like an English flea market where you sell stuff out of your cars. The VHS is a low-quality clip of someone innocently enough trying to prevent themselves for a video dating service. It starts with a 36-year-old man, Tony, kind of awkwardly explaining what he's all about. You know how they go. We've all been there. Where it starts to get unsettling, though, is the discordant screaming that we can hear in the background. And the guy in the video seems like he's mentally degrading very fast.
Someone that can...
He starts smacking himself in the head in frustration, tripping over his words, and accidentally revealing probably a lot more than he means to. Especially when he starts to say funny, flirty little things like, "I'm looking for someone who doesn't mind disappearing for a long time," and cute little sweet nothings like, "I'm looking for someone who likes a long walk on the beach and someone I can spend the rest of their life with." Now the video is almost too perfect, you know? And the only thing that makes you wonder if maybe it's not a fake is just how convincingly creepy this 36-year-old bachelor is acting. If anyone has got some answers for this one, please let me know, because this one really did send a chill down my spine trying to watch it. And hey, if anyone wants, at the end of the video, Tony left his address if you'd like to reach out to him, if you like pina coladas getting caught in the rain and want to spend the rest of your life with him. Number 1, Sad Satan. Sad Satan is a deeply mysterious, lost video game, allegedly emanating from the dark web. And it's wrapped in intrigue and controversy and has all the makings of a great classic internet urban legend. The game first came into the mainstream when the owner of the now defunct Obscure Horror Corner YouTube channel was sent a link to this strange game, with the sender saying that they found it on a deep web page where users could post random files. The actual game's contents are deeply disturbing and unsettling. It truly feels like something you were never meant to see. There's not a whole lot of depth to the gameplay. It just features the player wandering down maze after maze of monochromatic hallways. A strange audio plays all around you from all sorts of sources, like an old Swedish number station, disembodied, blood-curdling screams. In some versions of the game, there are enemies that appear to be ghostly children figures standing in the maze with you. Images flash repeatedly through the gameplay, featuring pictures of notorious criminals. Audio from recordings of criminals like Charles Manson can be heard and seen. The game ends rather abruptly. If you run into any of the haunted children in the game, they'll end you and the game will be over. The mystery behind Sad Satan is arguably bigger than the game itself. Where did it come from? To date, no one truly knows who developed it or why or what their intentions even were. After the game became big thanks to the Obscure Horror Corner, there was a drove of interest in the game, leading to sinister double copies being passed around online masquerading as the real one. And these variants would include things like illegal content inside the game or dangerous malware, as users had reported that their computers would act sluggish or even outright shut down irreversibly after downloading the widely released copy. The Obscure Horror channel shut down after Sad Satan started to get attention, leading to a ton of speculation there. Was the original uploader of the video the creator of the game and he was trying to garner some sort of viral reputation for it? Or did he feel some sort of guilt or responsibility for getting this game out into the mainstream? It's been years and we're still no closer to getting any of the answers on this.
Coming in at number 5, we've got the Human Experiment. This is a particularly well-known site on the dark web that was active for quite a while before going quiet around 2011. As you may have guessed from the name, this site documents all sorts of human experimentation. Not lab trials or allergy tests though, this is some real Unit 731 stuff. The pages detail experiments done by anonymous doctors and med students, all unethical, despicable, and super unhippocratic. The goal is to prove that some humans are verifiably superior to others. Whether it's a eugenics thing or a super soldier program gone sour, I can't say for sure. These dastardly doctors pick up homeless and unregistered people and subject them to all sorts of horrid conditions, all in the name of science. Some of the tests include starvation, extreme dehydration, testing the limits of pain tolerance, introducing infectious diseases, causing organ damage, transfusing unsafe substances, administering experimental drug trials, sterilization, and subjecting infants to x-rays, heat, and pressure. Apparently a lot of these experiments are covertly conducted in hospitals and the results are shared under the names of other real patients. After the experiment is complete, usually thanks to the death of their subject, the bodies are dissected and disposed of discreetly. At one point, dumpsters behind meat shops were mentioned. Yikes. Like most information available on the dark web, the human experiment has been subject to plenty of scrutiny and skepticism. However, according to some intrepid researchers, some of the data they posted related to their experiments with hypothermia and bleach injections is reasonably realistic. It could very well be an elaborate fantasy, but numbers don't often lie. Like I mentioned earlier, these folks have been radio silent since 2011, but that doesn't mean they've stopped with their experimentation. Maybe they've just stopped posting about it.
Number 4. I feel fantastic. Now, if you're a student in horrifying, unexplained YouTube clips and legends, perhaps you've been unfortunate enough to run into this one before. But if you haven't, I'm sorry. It's been years since I Feel Fantastic first graced the YouTube algorithm, and yet we're still no closer to understanding, uncovering what's going on here. The video is pretty short and sweet, but I doubt you'll actually be able to finish it. It's a mannequin-looking android named Tara, singing her little song for the camera. Now, she's got the chutzpah down pat, but her natural stage presence could use a little bit of work, maybe her tone too, because she kind of sings discordantly and completely terrifying. It sounds like the kind of thing that you would hear a few minutes before you wake up strapped to an ice-cold slab operating table in a dank basement. The robot, we know, was built by John Bergeron, and that's about all we know. He envisioned his beloved Tara as being an android pop sensation, kind of like what I think Grimes might be. And I really don't want to shut down Tara's career before it's blossomed, but she's got some serious hurdles to solve first. The incredibly unsettling nature of the video caused speculators to run wild with theories about what they were seeing. The most extreme ones go so far as to suggest John was a murderer, and Tara was a mannequin wearing the clothes of his victims. Some suggest he's just a very strange man who wanted a singing companion in his home. In all the years since this clip went viral, we've never got a follow-up on this bizarre video, and I doubt we're ever going to get more answers on this one. I wonder if Tara is still out there, if she's still singing proudly, or if she's rotting in a basement somewhere. I just hope she's still practicing, you know?
Chewing their way in at number 3, we've got cannibals. In amongst the many, seedy online markets is one that might make your stomach churn. With every possible vice being catered to, why wouldn't people with a penchant for human flesh make an appearance? There are plenty of folks looking to buy and sell human meat online. In fact, there are some folks who are really into the idea of being eaten by someone else. They say stuff like, "I'm fresh, I'm juicy, come on and eat me." Seems like a sort of sexual compulsive thing. Very odd. In addition to the buying and selling of meat for the purpose of consumption, there are markets for products made from humans. There are customers and shopkeepers looking to exchange wallets and belts made from skin. Maybe even a full skin suit, kind of like Buffalo Bill. Or maybe a wallet made of something taken from a poor pill-popping woman, a la the house that Jack built. Who would want to own, let alone wear, some of this stuff? I'd really rather not know. Relatively recently, a man was caught using the dark web to plan the murder and consumption of a 13-year-old girl. He had been searching for a parent willing to let him kill and eat their daughter, and ended up communicating with an undercover agent posing as a father. They agreed on a meeting place, but when he showed up, he was not met by a young girl, but by the police. After being encouraged on the dark web, he was ready to go all the way through with it. Coming in at number 2, we've got Red Rooms. Think Videodrome. Red Rooms are basically live feeds of people being tortured in methodical and perverse ways. Some say you can pay to tell the operator what to do to the victim. It's hard to find verifiable sources of Red Rooms, but their existence isn't totally implausible. Reddit user Drowdan swears that one day he came across one by accident and hasn't been the same since. When he was in high school, he spent a lot of time using Tor on recommendation from his tech-savvy friend. exploring, clicking links, just seeing how far he could get. Eventually he came across a forum called something along the lines of Think Evil, populated almost exclusively by people discussing very dark topics: sexual assault, torture, long-term abuse tactics, cannibalism, you name it. Most of the posts were pretty old though. However, he noticed that someone had posted a link within the hour on the forum's main page. Red Room, going live soon. Morbid teenage curiosity made him click. He was directed to a live webcam chat room broadcasting what appeared to be the inside of an abandoned house. Front and center was a woman tied to a chair with a pillowcase over her body. A man with his face covered entered the frame and asked the audience what they wanted to see and how much they would pay. Someone ended up putting $500 on the line to see her beaten with a bat. Soon after, this bidder requested that the poor woman be killed. Another chat member asked Drow Dan why he wasn't talking, which caused him to freak out and pull the plug on his computer. Needless to say, he wasn't going to head back there anytime soon. And finally at number 1, Peter Scully. I really don't want to discuss the grisly details of this, so I'll make it short. Peter Scully is an Australian serial killer made famous for running a pay-per-view site on the dark web. He and his partner Carmen Ann Alvarez would torture and assault young girls on camera for paying viewers. He was eventually brought to justice when 2 potential victims escaped and identified Alvarez, who then confessed and revealed all. Scully is currently serving a life sentence in the Philippines for his crimes, thank goodness. Even a stay in one of the world's most overstuffed prisons is too good for him. When asked why he did it, Scully said, "I don't know why I did it. I wasn't like that in Australia. I'm not sure if that makes it better or worse." Even if he's behind bars, the anonymous viewers on the dark web may very well still be at large.
Number 5. The Human Experiments. Now, one of the more infamous stories that has come out of the dark web is the Human Experiments. Now, that name alone should already tell you this is not going to be a fun one. I can't think of any fun human experiments. The site was active for a while, but possibly thankfully, seems to have gone dark around 2011. The Human Experiments refers to a website where a group of anonymous doctors, medical students, and so on practice their own brand of medicine. And if the website's header is to be believed, they hope to prove that not all humans are equal, for some of them were born superior to others. So who's behind it? Government black ops, super soldier project, freelance doctors looking to practice on their own time, an incredibly convoluted and overly complicated hoax? Could not tell you. Probably for the best. I don't really know if I want to know. They say that their clientele mostly consisted of the homeless population, presumably not to arouse too much suspicion. Now, their experiments range from all sorts of dealings. Some on the website listed are starvation and water fluid restriction, vivisection and pain tolerances, infectious diseases and organ effects, transfusions, drug trials, sterilizations, and I'm sure some more that aren't listed. I feel like I'm reading off the side effects for a drug commercial. Apparently, if any of their test subjects don't survive their experiments, the bodies would be dissected for further study and dumped discreetly in dumpsters around the city. Now, like most dark web stories out there, there's obviously a fair bit of scrutiny, with some people suspecting this might be a very elaborate, grisly hoax. Why someone would go to this much effort to fake something that most people aren't even going to see, I'm not sure. However, one reporter noted that the test data on the website of the hypothermia and bleach injection experiments are eerily convincing. So either it's a fake and someone did their homework, or I don't really want to think about it. And hey, if you're just looking for really good scary stories, you don't gotta go any further than where you are right now. Just hit subscribe and we'll get you a scary video or two every single day. Let's keep going.
Coming in at number 4, hitmen. Thanks to the relative anonymity of the dark web, hits seem to be a relatively common commodity. Who hasn't at some point wanted someone dead? Not having to kill them yourself is a huge bonus too. Although that's definitely not something I've ever considered. No way. There are 3 major sites that a lot of folks seem to be familiar with: Assassination Market, Unfriendly Solution, and Cthulhu Resume. They all function a little bit differently, but are definitely all for the same purpose. Unfriendly Solution is apparently just one hitman. He claims to have years of experience and no remaining human empathy, which means he'll do just about anything to anyone for the right price. Cthulhu Resume is an organized criminal group full of former soldiers and mercenaries. Apparently they're a well-oiled killing machine. And then there's the Assassination Market, which is a little odd. It works kind of like a crowdfunding operation with an element of gambling. A target is added to a list and users can add cryptocurrency to a pool of money associated with that person. Folks can also predict when and how a person will die, and whoever gets it right will take the money home. The person behind this site appears to be more fundamentally driven than others, with plenty of long manifesto-style points about their assassination style. Although with most folks on the list being celebrities, it seems like the site's more of a novelty than anything. Many folks theorize that the more accessible operations are probably sting operations for the FBI or similar organizations, which makes sense to be honest. Catch killers before they can find a real hitman. However, I don't doubt that there are real assassins skulking around on the dark web. They'd be much more furtive though, allowing only certain folks to find them. You would need connections and access to the always changing gibberish-based onion links to contact these killers. After all, who would openly advertise their services on a surface level site?
Number 3. Swatting. Now for those of us who aren't on the internet as much, maybe you aren't super familiar with this term swatting. It has nothing to do with flies, but instead refers to the practice of obtaining a victim's IP address and then anonymously or falsely reporting serious criminal activity at the location, such as a bomb threat, hostage situation, or any other number of things that would necessitate the boys in blue packing up, getting in the van, and kicking down your door. The SWAT team shows up, kicks the front door down, ready to go, and tragically, more often than not, it ends poorly. And it happens to be a huge trend. It's even happened to celebrities like Justin Bieber and Rihanna. One of the biggest targets is gamers and streamers getting locked in vicious rivalries. Well, like many other illegal services, swatting is allegedly something you can buy through the dark web. Worried about the consequences? Don't want to spend money on an expensive trial for going to jail? Well, apparently you can hire someone to SWAT for you. One alleged website offers tiers of service ranging from mild situations to a little worse. They'll bring many people and raid them, all the way to the lofty, the SWAT team comes and from there they'll do anything. Now despite huge sentences for swatting, up to 25 years to life by the way, in case you're wondering, it's still a fairly common occurrence. Disposable phones, encrypted phone numbers, and even Skype have all been tools for the would-be swatter. As such, various law enforcement agencies across the United States have been trying to crack down on the practice as much as they can in order to dispel any would-be swatters from getting any bright ideas and to dispel any more tragedies from occurring. Number 2, bed bugs. This one is really out there, but I'm gonna be honest, it's the ones that are really out there that are the ones I'm most interested in, of course. I want to bring you the stuff you probably haven't seen in any other top 5 videos, and this was too good to pass up. On a Reddit thread asking plainly, what's your dark web story? We had this from user UrbanHawk1, who said that in his time on the dark web, he saw all manner of nefarious business, but none that truly stuck out to him more, none that was stranger than one man who was trying to acquire a massive amount of bed bugs shipped to his home. Naturally, people on the marketplace website were a bit curious. Other users on the unknown website wanted to know why exactly you'd invite that sort of thing into your home. Most of us want that out. Well, the bug collector was looking to, and paraphrasing the original Redditor's words, he wanted to try to breed bed bugs to be resistant to all the usual manner of extermination, while simultaneously breeding in a weakness that would remain secret to only him. From here, he would then unleash his genetically superior bed bugs onto the unsuspecting population, who would then have to pay him to have it dealt with since he was the only one who knew their weakness. Now if this one is sounding just a tiny bit comic booky to you, that's because similar schemes were also the plot of the villains of the Amazing Spider-Man movie and the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles. Now unfortunately there's no follow-up to this. I couldn't really find a second source on this anywhere, and Urban Hawk's story is the only time I ever saw this particular anecdote mentioned, but it was too interesting to pass up. You have to wonder, maybe Urban Hawk, the guy who posted about it, maybe he was the bedbug mastermind looking to see if there was any interest in the business. We may never know, but I'm definitely feeling itchy just talking about it. And number 1, we see you. Our next story comes to us from a Reddit user going by the handle FakeFakington. So, all that being said, maybe just take whatever he says with a grain of salt if that's how he chooses to advertise. Making matters more confusing, he does list his real name on his Reddit account as Truth Realtime. So who's to say? Now TruthFakington, Fake Truth, he recounts the story of the early days of the dark web, when everything was still very deep and dark. Back in the day, Fakey Truthy was browsing random links, just like us kids today still do. He describes a lot of it as not particularly interesting, until he found sort of an early blog, describing random thoughts, musings, and so on. But he said they felt a bit like someone was trying to pass secret notes to each other. So, curious, he wanted to know more about what he was reading, and he compiled the IPs from the various messages and writings to try and get a better understanding about what he had found. Now he said he made his way through a digital rabbit hole to find himself in a collection of medical records. The sort of thing that a psychologist or a therapist might keep, perhaps. The images were mostly of faxes and predominantly medical, but also military in nature too. As he was browsing through all of the files he had just uncovered, he noticed a new one had uploaded as he was browsing through them. The timestamp on the upload listing the exact minute he was browsing. The message was named, spine-chillingly, "Hello there." Infinitely braver than I would be, Mr. Fake Truthington opened up the file and saw that it was nothing but plain text that read out, "We see you." And about 15 seconds later, the server dropped altogether. Now, Fake Fakington is still around today. He's still an avid Redditor and tech head and was able to bring us this story, but no doubt that one little incident probably kept him awake for a few nights and probably kept him away from the dark web for a bit. I know I would.